All right, y'all. Welcome into another second installment of Hot Box Talk Podcast. Here with my co-host Khalil. How you doing today, Brody? What's going on with you?
What's going on, brother? I'm feeling good. How are you?
Doing good. I cannot complain. I can't lie. I mean, we had a good week. First episode was up, so you feel me? Good little start off, and then we're bouncing on to our second one. And of course, we have a great second episode layout for y'all today. We're just going to jump straight into it because we got a lot talked about this week that happened on. So Tuesday, February 1st, was a pretty normal day for me. Of course, I was going to work. I'm pretty sure you were going to work as well. We both normally had our work to do. And then you get an alert on our phone. I mean, we get the alert on our phone. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback that you and I have seen. Definitely, hands down, bar none, greatest quarterback that we've seen play football. Called it quits officially. They had the rumor report on Saturday, I think. He denied it, but then came out Tuesday and admitted it. So a lot of people was just saying that he was just delaying the inevitable, I guess. But as a Patriots fan, I know you have strong feelings about this one. What do you personally think about his greatness for you guys? Not only you guys, but as a quarterback as a whole, and just his overall play, overall as a player, and what you thought about him.
Well, first, shout out to Tom Brady on a great career. Easily first ballot Hall of Famer. Greatest quarterback you and I have ever seen. Greatest quarterback the game has ever seen. And according to Belichick's statement, the greatest NFL player of all time. We'll talk about that later, though. But Tom Brady, man, he just meant so much to me as a Patriots fan. Even more than me, it's just a fan of football. Even as just a fan of sports, you have to respect the way he came into the league and how, his story of coming in as a lowly desired prospect out of Michigan, coming in as a backup and then just waiting for his opportunity. That was Drew Bledsoe getting injured and then never really looking back. So I think the story of Tom Brady can be used in not just aspects of sports, but you can apply his career to someone's everyday life of just constantly working to get where you want to be and then never getting satisfied with success. Obviously, we all know the quote of which ring is his favorite, and he responded with his next one. This is a guy that has 7 rings, still talking about that just this past year about how his favorite ring will be his next one. So that's amazing. Shout out to Tom. Could have shouted us out in his thank you post. We'll get to that. I felt a little salty about that, but especially with how many Bucks people he shouted out, like Bucks management, BA, his teammates, the trainers. Like, bro, you were only there for a year and a half. But nonetheless, he's still Tom Brady. So shout out to Tom.
I mean, we can get straight into that because that was probably the biggest thing I took away from it. I thought I looked at it. The first thing I sent it straight to you. Like no Patriots talk, nothing about the Patriots in his post. And I mean, I get the understanding that you in the moment, but this is the team that you won 6 Super Bowls with. I would have thought at least on the retirement post that you sending out everywhere onto your Twitter and your Instagram that you would have sent out something about the Patriots. But I mean, honestly, I do want to get straight into that because that is actually a big thing. As a Brady person who was not Brady person, but as a fan of a team that had this man as a quarterback on their roster, how was there any ill will feelings towards Brady when you saw that non-post about anything Patriots?
As a Patriots fan, I don't think I could ever be upset at Tom Brady for anything longer than about 10 minutes, man. The guy brought us 6 Super Bowls, 4-time Super Bowl MVP for those 6 Super Bowls. Great player. But it did confirm one thing to me as a person that watched the Brady departure from New England very closely, and that was that him and Belichick still have beef. I know in the homecoming game this past year, it was rumored that Belichick went to the Bucs locker room and Brady and him talked for about 20 minutes post game, and they may have buried the hatchet in the summer after Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with the Bucs, but I think there's still something there between Brady and Belichick, a little bit of disdain. Belichick wanted Brady to be out of New England 2 years before he actually did. He wanted to make Jimmy G the successor to Brady way before. Um, long before Tom Brady, long before we won the Super Bowl against the Rams. I think it was the year we won the Super Bowl against the Falcons. If Belichick would have had it his way, Tom Brady would have been on another team that year. So, of course, Tom Brady, there's always going to be some ill will towards Belichick for that. You thought I was done. You wanted to move past me, but it was still surprising. Like, you would think in his retirement post, he would try to bury the hatchet. I'm not a player anymore. I don't have any beef with my former coach, any of my former teammates. I'm retired. But I guess that's what makes Tom Brady the ultimate competitor. He'll always have a chip on his shoulder, no matter what. But it was a little alarming reading it at first.
Yeah, of course, me and you didn't get a chance to watch Jordan play, I should say, the most and the best moments of his career. But watching The Last Dance and learning about him through that, we can tell that he's the ultimate competitor, and you can kind of resemble that to Brady and being the ultimate competitor and doing whatever it takes for their teams alone to win and doing everything that they personally can do for their teams to win. So that I do think it's just really just the ultimate competitor in him that he literally can't rest until he destroyed everything that's walking in the NFL just because of getting that get back as a 6th rounder, which is the craziest thing. So honestly, I wanted to think about would anybody really ever come close to touching him and his greatness? Obviously, we talked a lot. We talked here about Pat Mahomes having that chance to possibly do that. But as you can see, he's now 2-4. So, I mean, who knows if he'll have a 20-year career like Brady? So who knows if he'll ever get up to that chance? We're watching Burrow go for his first one. It's Burrow and Stafford both. So Stafford's already kind of out of the context. But you're watching Burrow go for his first. You've got Josh Allen, who's now in year 5, who hasn't even touched it. Got quarterbacks like Lamar, year 5, who haven't touched it. So, I mean, is there possibly anybody that could get close to this or match this type of excellence? I personally say no, but we can see. We get to wait to see.
Yeah, I agree with you there, only because of how much success Tom Brady saw on the early part of his career. That's going to be very hard to duplicate for any quarterback coming in. So yeah, I definitely don't think there'll be another Tom Brady, but there shouldn't be another Tom Brady. There's not a second Michael Jordan. We just appreciate Kobe Bryant and LeBron, same way we're doing with Pat Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and the quarterbacks you named. So no, there probably will never be another Brady. There shouldn't be. There's just going to be a bunch of new legacies being created in real time that I'm excited to watch.
Yeah. Real quick before we end that final topic, your personal, I would say, as a Patriots fan, I would like to know your personal favorite Brady moment. I'll give you mine real quick. I do think that my favorite Brady moment obviously will have to be 28-3 comeback. You can't do it without the whole team, but just never waver. And I think that's the biggest thing that you want from your quarterbacks and what I hope for my quarterback in the future, just to not waver and not get down on the little things, because he could have easily packed it in right there and said, well, that's one. I still got, what, 5? I mean, still got 4 at that point. So who should I really even care? But never wavering, 28-3, greatest comeback I ever seen in real life on the biggest stage. What a game that was. But any personal Brady moments that you loved, I should say?
Dan, there's so many. If you made me pick one right now, it would probably have to be the 28-3 against the Falcons. A second greatest moment, man, he had so many, man. He had so many. That might be a question we may have to come back to at the end of the episode, man, because there's just so many Brady moments.
I thought the day was over with that. I thought we were going to be talking about Brady the entire day for that on Tuesday, February 1st. But then you sent me something that we both believe to be absolutely not true. We believe to be fake. We believe to be Photoshop from something that just didn't make sense, which was a text message involving Bill Belichick and Brian Flores. Now, again, we know Bill Belichick is a 60, 70-year-old man. He's old. He has no understanding of technology, at least for the phone wise. My guess it being. So we see a text between Belichick and Flores. And I'm telling you, when you first sent it to me, I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. That's fake. I'm not believing anything until Adam Schefter puts it out there and puts it out in the news. But then you get an ESPN alert to my phone probably 2-3 minutes after you sent that saying Brian Flores has filed a lawsuit against the NFL and 3 specific teams for racial misconduct. And it's something that I really wanted to get into on this, because this is a big thing, especially in NFL, for something that we've known for years is still
Right.
going on. It's nothing new that's not going on with this stuff. This has been happening in the NFL. Again, it's just being clarified more. You have a situation like Kaepernick that was racism. I don't care what nobody says, that was racism. At the end of the day, yes, he got blackballed. Yes, it was his own doing. But for what he's doing, he should have still been playing. That's just really how it's supposed to be going. So ultimately, what did you think about him being a coach this time, not just a player, but a coach this time, standing up for a lot of other coaches who just can't seem to get that chance? Like, this is a big thing, and now somebody is finally doing something about it. What did you think about Flores standing up and possibly risking his NFL career doing it?
Right. That's exactly where I was going to go to. I'm grateful that Flores doesn't mind possibly sacrificing his future as an NFL head coach or, some other job in the NFL for the betterment of not only his demographic, but the opportunities that our demographic will get in the NFL. It's amazing that he's not afraid to sacrifice himself, be a martyr almost for the betterment of our culture. So that was great. And I think he said in his lawsuit that, it's Black History Month. He looks up to guys like MLK who weren't afraid to sacrifice their well-being for the betterment of the cause. So shout out to Flores for not being afraid to stick it to the man. The Belichick text, man. Belichick is an old ass man. That's what those messages suggested to me. I get that Brian Dable, who he thought he was talking to, and Brian Flores are both named Brian, but Brian Flores worked for the Patriots. You should know who Flores is. Like, his name in your phone should not just be Brian. Like, it should be Flores. Or there's a joke on Twitter that if he has so many Brians in his phone, Flores' name in Belichick's phone should be Black Brian and Dable should be White Brian. So I don't know, man, but those Belichick texts, they definitely implicate the Giants as not giving Flores a fair shot, because I think, if I can remember correctly, he didn't even interview with them, and Belichick was talking to who he thought Dable was, saying, yo, you're already their guy. It's already a done deal. You're the guy. Congratulations. Flores is like, wait, like, what's going on? And another crazy thing in Flores's about his lawsuit were his allegations against John Elway and the Broncos, that his entire interview was a sham. Elway showed up wasted, like it was not a real interview, it was a hoax. I was interested to see what John Elway said in response to that. He definitely denied everything, but that was just interesting because if it is true, then this is a terrible light for John Elway, because you played in the NFL, bro. Like, there were Black men in your locker room. One of your greatest receivers is on TV every morning in Shannon Sharp, vouching for the Black community and also vouching for you about how great of a guy you were. So if it's true that you didn't give Brian Flores a fair shot in his interview, then that's extremely alarming for me as a fan of John Elway. And, I'm a fan of football, so I watch the Broncos. So that was extremely alarming to know about what happened in his Broncos interview.
Yeah, Flores and Dable, there's not the same last names. They're not even close to the same last names. F and D, FL and DA, that doesn't make no sense. Bill Belichick, you're an old man. Get the context in your phone right, please, bro. Please, because how we gotta look at this is that we got a Black man who feels wronged, crossing the greatest coach of all time. You crossing the greatest coach of all time. So I do believe that he's ultimately cost himself a job, unless it comes out that Bill Belichick knew he was going to get crossed, knew this was going to be used, which is something I could see Belichick being. I could see him being the type of person to say, you know what, if you feel like this is what you have to do, then go for it, because he loves Flores. I'm assuming that he loves Flores as a coach. He's won championships with Flores as a coach.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming that he has a true love for this man. So it's not like he really wanted to see him falter, just as much as Flores wouldn't want to see Bill Belichick in a bad light like that, because he knows it was pretty much. I'm pretty sure Flores knew that Bill was sending that as an accident, but he just had to use that. That's because that is true evidence and context that the system is messed up. And I'm just trying to think of how things could possibly even come to ball. You look at it as there's a rule in the first place to even give minorities a chance to be interviewed, not even hired, interviewed. There's a rule that needs to be made for somebody to be interviewed. That's the biggest change that needs to be happening. That black people shouldn't need a rule, or minorities, whatever it is, shouldn't need a rule to get a chance to interview with somebody. They should be interviewed because they make up 70% of this league. They should be interviewed because they're great leaders as well. They're not just, it's not all white men that can be leaders of teams. There's black men that can lead teams as well to Super Bowls. And the fact that there's only one man that was hired as a coach, as we speak today, there's only one black coach, is still sick in a league that's made up of 70% of its that are minority players. And that's just, yes, the quarterbacks are mostly white. Yes, the coaches and the owners and the GMs are majority white. And obviously the owners are the biggest thing. That's the thing that will likely have to change is diversity in ownership, which will never happen because these guys have too much money for a collective group of minorities to get together. And yes, minorities have money. I'm not saying that, but of course, it's just the NFL teams, they consist of one guy, but there's 1,000 people under him that are helping him pay for it. So it's multiple layers to it, and it's just the biggest thing. Of course, it has to be changed through. Change has to come through ownership. What do you think about the owners? Is there anything that we could do to get minority owners in here? And is there any big change that you also see that could change for NFL coaching and NFL hiring standards, I should say?
I think it'll definitely be a longer mission to see black people in positions of ownership in NFL. But we have to start with what Flores was saying as far as we just want a fair shot. I think that's what's, most alarming to me, and that's what struck out to me most, is that you had ESPN NFL analysts Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears saying that this has been happening. Like, I remember one thing he said, that Flores said, that when he went into an interview a few years ago with a team, I think it was the Houston Texans, I believe, they told him that, we already have our guy. We're just interviewing you to fulfill our Rooney Rule, to fulfill the Rooney Rule. And that's just like, why interview me? Why even bring me in here? Why even have me believe that I have a fair shot of getting this job if I'm just here for you to fill a quota? So that was crazy. I think ownership is a taller mountain to climb, because that all starts with having personal capital, having guys team up and put their money together and purchase a team that's already for sale, which is has to happen first. So ownership is a steeper mountain to climb. But the Rooney Rule, I don't know, like, do you abolish it, or do you just tweak it and tell teams to really take it seriously? So, like, I don't know. I saw Roger Goodell's statement today regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in NFL, and it was just another statement. It was just another statement from the boss of a company wanting more inclusion in his for the company, indeed. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
One thing I do want to get off before we switch off topics, because this is something that's really bothering me about it as a fan of a team. So in his lawsuit, it was mentioned about our former coach, I would say our Arizona Cardinals former coach, Steve Wilkes, and who is a black man who got his one opportunity in 2018 to lead us as a team. Now, again, this frustrates me about our organization, because I'm not going to say our organization, our fan base, because I agree 100% on what they're saying. Yes, Steve Wilkes might not be a good head coach. There's no wrong principle in what they're saying about that. The biggest thing that I'm trying to explain to people, and they all seem to be white, so they don't really understand that what's going on, but they all seem to be white. So what I'm trying to get people to understand is, he comes in as a new coach in 2018. The first move that we thought of was to give him Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford's not a good quarterback. The first thing that we think of to get him is Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen hasn't been a good quarterback. He was picking up a team that was left for shambles by Bruce Arians and Jason Licht right before they left off. This team was left for absolute dirt. So, of course, there's not a lot of success there to be made. People are talking about, oh, he didn't have control of the locker room. He didn't have this. He didn't have that. Nobody that's outside of the facility or that was on that team can know that but them. Chandler Jones, a mainstay in that 2018 Cardinals defense, who was ranked 12th in DVOA. Yes, they gave up a lot of points. They were ranked 12th in DVOA, which means they did something good enough. I remember, I remember specifically a mic'd up that year where we played the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. 2018, I believe, was Mahomes' breakout year.
Yeah, that was
Yes,
his first full season. That's when he won.
28. Yes, yes. Okay, so Mahomes' breakout year, 2018. He goes to Chandler Jones at the end of the game and tells him, "This is about this." We played him about week. It was later in the season when we played him. It was a little bit. I would say mid to late in the season. He goes to Chandler Jones and tells him, "This is the best defense I've played all season." We had something on the defense. We had something. So one thing you're doing is you're switching an entire defensive scheme. We were a 3-4 to a 4-3 team. So at that point you have that. You have a defensive scheme change. You have a coaching change. You have a quarterback change. These are multiple factors that result in teams having less than 5 wins. We had 3. We had 3, and we had the worst offense, and as well as having to fire our offensive coordinator because he was so bad. Only 7 games into the season. There are multiple levels of aspects that caused him to have a bad team. And yes, he may not be a leader he may not be a head coach. He may not have been the head coach, the guy to take us where we needed to go. But yet you give Cliff Kingsbury 3 years to do the same fuck up shit that he's done multiple years now. That's the double standard that he's mentioning in his lawsuit. It's not about Steve Wilks, the person, or Steve Wilks, the head coach. It's about this guy who was a minority, was giving crap to work with, but yet the white guy is given a first overall pick. He's given a real talented quarterback. He's given real assets. He's getting real things like a DeAndre Hopkins trade. These are things that's happening for him to help him succeed. Wilks did not have that. And while he may not be the ultimate coach, people, these are the double standards that we're talking about when we talk about head coaching changes or head coaching deficiencies. White guys seem to always get the chance and chance and chance and chance. Black guys, if you're not top tier to start, you're done. I really do wonder what Tomlin would have done if he wasn't as good as he was to start. Would he still be a head coach of this team?
That's just to say, Mike Tomlin.
That's just the thing you gotta understand.
Mike Tomlin is doing astronomical things with the Steelers. He's never had a losing season. He's the youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl. He's the second black coach to ever win a Super Bowl. So the one black guy who's in a spot is doing an amazing job. So I understand. So owners might say, unless you're going to be Mike Tomlin and that's where he set the bar, then you really have no place being a head coach, which is just unfair because we see white mediocre head coaches keep their jobs for years and years and years. So including my former offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, who was a mediocre head coach in Denver when he was a head coach with Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler, I believe. But he was average, and he's getting another shot in this year's coaching carousel while there are black coordinators and former black head coaches who just get interviewed to fill quotas. So I definitely understand Flores's frustration, and coming straight from the Hot Box Talk podcast, we wish you the best in your lawsuit.
We do. I hope that you create change. We both wish that you create change because we want to see a future in the NFL where it's possible for people like us to have a chance to get to the top, honestly, because that's the only thing that we want. So ultimately, just get into our last quick hit on the NFL. There was a coaching hire, well, multiple coaching hires actually, but one of the main coaching hires we want to talk about was a former head coach who led a team to its first ever Super Bowl, and Doug Peterson, getting a coaching job with the Jaguars. He now takes on Trevor Lawrence's development and career and has a chance to change his team around. How do you think this helps Trevor Lawrence? And do you see them having any type of change or success from now having the second straight first overall pick in drafts?
I think that as of right now, Doug Peterson to the Jaguars, in my opinion, is the best coaching hire thus far of this NFL offseason. I think Trevor Lawrence's career can finally get started. I know there's a lot of inexperience and just non-professionalism with Urban Meyer running the helm. You know, there's a lot of things that shouldn't have gone on that went on in Jacksonville while he was head coach. So I'm excited to see Trevor Lawrence develop with Doug Peterson. I'm especially excited for him because I know firsthand, because he beat my guys in the Super Bowl, that Doug Peterson he's a risk it type of guy. Like he will call a Philly special in the red zone of the Super Bowl where his quarterback ends up being a receiver and catches a touchdown. Like he is a creative guy. His offensive philosophies are fun to watch. And I know Trevor Lawrence, who I was big on coming out last year, I still think, even though Mac Jones probably was the best rookie quarterback last year, I still think Trevor Lawrence has room to become a great player, Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, and all of those good things. So I'm excited. We saw Doug Peterson win with Nick Foles, Carson Wentz. So we know that he knows how to get through to a quarterback. Carson Wentz had the best year of his life, a year that, looking back now, we don't think he'll ever be able to duplicate with Doug Peterson and Frank Wright, of course, who's his coach in Indianapolis, calling the plays with them. So I'm excited. They had the number 1 pick again this year. Let's see what they do. But A+ hire from the Jaguars. Great way to move on from whatever happened last year with Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it an A-. Only reason I'll give it an A- is because, again, this is what we're talking about with the Flores situation. You have a black general manager and Adrian Wilson, who is, I want to say, a director, some type of director in the Arizona Cardinals scouting department. He has his own chance of being a GM, and that was the team that was likely about to take him on, as well as retaining on Byron Leftwich, who would have been the head coach of the team. So you would have had a black GM and a black head coach, and the owner was too stubborn to move on from a white GM to hire 2 black candidates, but wanted to keep the white GM and ends up hiring a white coach. Again, I think Doug Peterson is the right guy because your franchise is about your quarterback, so you need your quarterback's development on par with what it is because you take him number 1. So if you take anybody number 1, or your top picks should be your main priority for development. So obviously, I do think that Peterson was the guy because he's at least a guy that can help your quarterback. But still, you have situations like this where Byron Leftwich could help them as well. Like let's not act like he didn't make Josh Rosen look somewhat capable of a quarterback while he was at OC when he took over in Arizona. So I do think that, again, these are the things that Flores is talking about, but I still do think that, like you said, a lot of the things that you mentioned will help Trevor Lawrence and it will make him better than what he is, and to the point where he can elevate his own teammates, because that's what you want all your quarterbacks to be able to do, is get to a point where they can elevate lower teammates while they're making the most money. And so you create championship teams in that aspect of it. So honestly, I'm gonna just drop it down to an A- for that reason. But I do think it was a good coaching decision at the end of the day.
Quick question: did Byron pull his name from Jaguars consideration, or did he have his interview and just wasn't selected? I think he pulled his name.
They were true candidates. There was talk from from Arizona reporters and Arizona columnists about Adrian Wilson and Leftwich being close to nearing a deal as the coach and GM. And after a couple of days, it goes away, and then he had to pull himself because they're not going in his direction. So he has to at least look somewhere else or stay where he is, because Leftwich now has the opportunity to just take over for BA once BA probably likely retires after this season, unless he stays on for another season. I mean, he could, but I doubt that he stays on too much longer with a team like this. So I could see Bucks management being okay with having Byron Leftwich take over from OC to head coach and then leading the team from there. I don't know how Todd Bowles will feel about that, because he might feel a little bit slighted, but it's always about what can you do for me lately. So at the end of the day, I do think that could happen for him. But yeah, he took his name off of the race after a couple of days. So
right.
A lot of big names. We had a move made yesterday on of the date of this recording. It was Robert Covington and Norman Powell heading to the Clippers for a ham sandwich, chips, and Kool-Aid.
Pretty much.
In all seriousness, I believe it was Justice Winslow that moved, Eric Bledsoe and Keon Johnson, I believe, and maybe a pick
and a second rounder, I believe.
And a pick. So yeah, a pick also moved. So they swapped with the Blazers. What do you think for both of these teams? Personally, I think the Clippers are now contending. They will now jump out of nowhere and start catching up on teams because they are in 8 or 7 or 8, I believe. So they're about to start catching up on teams because they have a real coach. They have players that actually play hard. They draft their players. So so they have all those things, and Ty Lue is in a masterful bag, as we can see. Blazers, on the other hand, for me personally, you do everything you say everything to keep your star player, and you do nothing to keep your star player. It doesn't make sense. We're gonna be watching Dame exit very soon. CJ, who's also in talks, rumor talks with, I think, the Mavericks and
Mavericks and
Pelicans.
Pelicans. Yeah, Mavericks.
Pelicans, yeah. So those two teams. So he might be moving and within a week. So what do you think for both of these teams? I feel sorry for Damian Lillard. Just go, bro. Just go somewhere else. Nobody's gonna think anything of you if you go somewhere else. I'm telling you this now live from the Hot Box Talk podcast. Nobody cares if you leave. But what do you think about the moves for both of these teams and how it could affect them in their standings and future wise too?
Well, I concur with your Dame analogy. Damian Lillard, brother, it's time to run from the grind. I know you don't want to do that. I know your trademark saying is I don't want to run from the grind, meaning you don't want to join a super team. He even went on one of my favorite hip hop YouTube shows, Bars on I-95, and gave a crazy freestyle about why he won't leave the Blazers and how he looks up to guys like Dirk and Kobe and Giannis who won with their original franchises that drafted them. So I see where he wants to go, but it's clear, Damian, that your goals and the Portland Trail Blazers goals are not aligned in the year 2022. Maybe they will be in 2, 3, 4 years from now, but I hope you don't stay around to see what their goals will be and see if their goals can be achieved in the near future. So the trade, according to Blazers Twitter, they are fans of the trade because with the emergence of Anthony Simmons, I need a name check on him. But with the emergence of him, they are okay with letting Norman Powell go, and they are okay with letting Robert Covington go because Blazers fans, I know a Blazers fan, they're not too high on Robert Covington, so they aren't really, they don't really feel too attached to him in order for them to be upset about letting him go. So losing Norm and losing Robert Covington to them isn't really that big of a deal. To me, as a knowledgeable basketball fan, it means a lot, and it definitely means even more considering where they are going. They are going to a team who is still in the playoff conversation without their best player not suiting up at all this year, and their second best player being out for the last 6 weeks and will be out for the next 2.5 weeks. The Clippers are for real, especially if Kawhi Leonard can consider coming back. I know Ty Lue said after they beat us on Thursday night that Kawhi probably isn't going to come back, but who knows? I mean, the only person we know by now with Kawhi Leonard, the only person that will dictate whether or not he plays and how his body feels is him. So we have to wait on him, wait on his decision. But that's a big move for the Clippers. That's a big move for Ty Lue. That's a big move for all Clippers fans. And as a Laker fan, we'll get into this later, but as a Laker fan who's been dying for just a quality wing, just a quality forward, just someone that can play defense, shoot the three, give us quality minutes while LeBron James is on the bench. It was extremely surprising after, the things that Laker fans have been told about how salary cap wise, we're in a terrible position. We don't really have that many trade assets. No team wants to do business with us. It was very surprising to hear all of those things, yet see the Clippers get 2 quality wings for nothing. So as a Laker fan, don't tell me that it's impossible to bring on a wing for what we have. When I just saw Norman Powell and Robert Covington, who gave great minutes to the Blazers both this year and last year, get traded to the Clippers for absolutely nothing. Shout out to Eric Bledsoe, but for absolutely nothing. Like, this is amazing that the Clippers could pull that off, and it's frustrating to me as a Laker fan that we still have our original roster from training camp. I mean, we'll get into Lakers talk later, but damn,
the thing I find, I mean, cut you off, but the thing I find funny about the Blazers situation is that they traded away a man, and Gary Trent Jr., who was 23 years old, and I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't losing, so I wasn't like wrong in anything I was thinking. In his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, he has 19, 16, 33, 31, 33, 32, 32 points for each of those games. Opposite, of course. Yeah, I don't think that Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, or Keon Johnson can get you any of those points combined in the amount of games that Gary Trent is doing. So if your thing is to be ready for when Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum leave, I think I would have thought that you wanted to have somebody like a Gary Trent Jr. to mix with an Anthony Simons, who is a good player, but will be on his own for a long time until they get somebody else. So we'll never know how good he could possibly be on a good contending team, but that's just confusing to me why you would get rid of that to add on to nothing for your player who in Simons, who's actually proven to be a good kid after what 2 or 3 years of training right now, or at least NBA training, I should say. So ultimately, I just don't really know what the Blazers are doing. I mean, enjoy poverty. Sick of y'all beating us anyway, so y'all can enjoy poverty and move on with that. So another quick one, real quick, I want to get your take on before we get to the biggest one is Karis LeVert possibly to the Cavs. That would make them super nasty. They already play great defense with those three bigs in the middle of the paint. You have Darius Garland, who's becoming a masterful distributor of the basketball, as well as also made his first All-Star. We're going to get All-Stars in a second. But Karis to the Cavs, I mean, that could be a big thing. They could really, because especially if Karis gets into any type of bag that he was in the bubble, as well as he is, as also how he plays, I should say, as a shot creator, could they make even more noise with him? What do you think about that move possibly?
Karis LeVert to the Cavs would indeed be super nasty. I'm jealous because Karis LeVert is a name that I've been clamoring for since the beginning of this season. I would love to see Karis LeVert in the purple and gold, and it even just my point about Karis LeVert was emphasized even more when the Pacers came to LA and Karis LeVert hit the dagger that eventually won them the game, had 11 points in the fourth quarter, 22 points in the second half in what is now called the crypto.com arena. Like, I've been a fan of Karis LeVert. I've been a fan of him since he was in Brooklyn. I still don't know why the Nets traded him away along with some of their other pieces. We'll get into that later, of course. But Karis LeVert to the Cavs, they're still a young team, so I wouldn't call them championship contenders this year with the addition of him, but that would be something indeed to build on with Karis, Garland, the names you said. Still got JB Bickerstaff, who's a quiet coach of the year candidate. He's coaching, he's doing an amazing job with those boys. Karis to the Cavs will be something, especially considering that they're probably gonna move on from Colin Sexton and maybe Ricky Rubio. He tore his ACL earlier this season, so they still have not had him for a full season. And I think Cavs management was trying to choose which guard we will go with out of Garland or Sexton. And I think this year, along with late last year, has proved to them that Garland is your man. He can run your offense. He can run your defense. He can run your team. So Garland with LeVert and that team, like you said, super nasty.
Now, moving on to the biggest possible rumor that we will have for the next couple of days until the trade deadline enacts. Sixers and Nets finally going to begin talks, if they haven't already begun talking, on a deal swap for the lowly Ben Simmons and the lowly James Harden. Both of them lowly as hell right now. I mean, James, we'll get into him secondly. I kind of want to start with the Ben Simmons thing. Embiid came out on Twitter the other day, put a little Charmin Soft picture, didn't have any explanation towards it, just put Charmin Soft. I think everybody understood what Joel Embiid was getting at. Ben Simmons, I mean, it's a pretty confusing situation to me because, again, there are multiple people that have had problems success-wise with getting onto things. And then you have Ben, who just seems to not be able to take this 1 ounce or one move of criticism with the one move with the one falter. Because I don't really think anybody put any fault at him except for the shooting. At least I can't speak for Philly fans. Not many people put too many fault on him except for the shooting when it comes to his game. And so out of nowhere, he makes one mistake in the game 7 when y'all as a team collapsed together, when everybody was getting collapsed on, and you just decide to, well, I can't take this. I don't want to be here anymore. What is it? The Philly organization? Is it just him? Because I mean, you see a guy like Fultz who ultimately could have had the same argument that he had no time to develop under this Philly organization. Is it them, or is it just the players just Is it Ben Simmons in this situation just being a little bit too charming, ultra soft?
Well, this Ben Simmons situation has been triggering me since it all started. So I'll try to stay poignant talking about Ben Simmons, but this is a failed experiment. This is a failed experiment for Ben Simmons. This is a failed experiment for Rich Paul. This is a failed experiment for Clutch Sports. And I think there will be some type of rule change in the next NBA collective bargaining agreement about players doing this. Because I think Ben Simmons is the last straw of players thinking that they can just not play until they get their way. This is crazy. Shaquille O'Neal was very candid about it the other day on Inside the NBA, saying he reached out that Ben Simmons reached out to him and actually had like some tough words for him about what he said. But it's all a sham. I mean, Ben Simmons, you're a good player. You're a good player. You're a borderline great player. I think you do things that would uplift a team that already has proven commodities on the roster. I think Ben Simmons is a type of player that believes that he needs to lead his own team, that he wants his own team in order to show the world what he can do as a player. And I think with Joel Embiid there, he believes he is handicapped in a way. It's just completely bogus to me. I think that all of this just suggests to me that Ben Simmons probably wanted to leave the Philadelphia 76ers. And he felt that Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid's post-game comments after Game 7 against the Hawks, that was the exit ticket. I can use this as my way to get out of town. There's always been rumors and reports circulating around you. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid really get along. And I didn't think there was any truth to it because they haven't played together for that long in order for us to really see if they don't work out. They've been great. Last year, they were the first seed in the East with the both of them playing together and playing well together. So I don't know why you would want to leave. I don't know what Joel did. I don't know how Doc Rivers' comments after the game made you feel that that frustrated and that angry to the point where you wanted to leave town. But it was really surprising just going back on the timeline of this, because this has been going on since last June or July, for crying out loud. Just going back to what Doc Rivers said on First Take before the season started, that, they want Ben back. Ben can be the guy that can lead them somewhere. And there's the Woj report that players on the Sixers tried to fly to Los Angeles to convince Ben to come back. And he neglected them, told him, don't show up, don't pull up on me, don't link me. Like who does Ben Simmons think he is a James Harden caliber of player, or Anthony Davis, or Kawhi Leonard, or Kyrie Irving, players that can cause a big fuss as they leave their original organizations in hopes of going to a better situation? Ben Simmons, you are not on that level. And because you are not on that level, the Philadelphia 76ers don't have to trade you. And they especially don't have to trade you when other teams know you want to be traded. So they're giving you 10 cents for every dollar that you think you may be worth. According to the reports, I'm going to say that a lot because there's been a lot of reports circulating and regarding his story. No deal has been enticing for the Sixers. The Timberwolves made their offer. The Pacers made their offer. The Kings made their offer. And the Sixers have said no to all. I understand why you would say no to that, but I think it's too late for Sixers organization and Elton Brand and I think Daryl Morey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Daryl Morey. I was about to say Sam Hinkie. Thank God I didn't. Daryl Morey. I think they overplayed their hand with Ben Simmons, thinking that they could get a Damian Lillard, James Harden caliber of player, when in reality, Ben Simmons is not that great. He has a lot of unscratched potential that who knows if he will ever tap into. This is year what? He was drafted in 2016, sat out his rookie year, so this would be last year, and he hasn't played at all this year, so this is what, year 5, year 4?
Year 5, yeah.
Yeah, year 4 of him being active, I believe. I don't know. I think Rich Paul should come out and speak, not on behalf of Ben Simmons, but on behalf of him and Clutch Sports, and just so they could explain their process in this, because this is bad. This is bad. We are approaching the trade deadline, and a fully healthy max player has not suited up one time. So I mean, if you're Joel Embiid, this guy is soft as Charmin, ultra soft. And if you're Doc Rivers and if you're Tyrese Maxey, who's playing great ball, we don't need this guy. So the Ben Simmons situation, it has gone left for people in Simmons' camp. It has gone left for Rich Paul, I believe, which is why he needs to speak, because he has his own reputation to take care of outside of Ben Simmons. He's Rich Paul, for crying out loud. So I think he should speak. And I think Ben Simmons, this is just a loss. You tried to play power moves with your organization, and they played power moves right back at you. They did not just faint. They did not just bow down and trade you because you and your super agent demanded a trade. No, that's not how sports work. And I think this is the last thing I'm going to say. I think in the next collective bargaining agreement, there will be some type of clause stating that if you are fully healthy and don't want to play because of drama going on upstairs or tension between you and another player, we get to recoup some of that money that you are fully guaranteed. I think that's the next step for NBA players when they pull moves like this. But yeah, I'm done. Ben Simmons, man, come and play, man. Come and play. You're a good player when you want to play. Forget the fact that you and Joel Embiid don't get along. Forget the fact that you think your coach doesn't believe in you. Forget the fact that you think it won't work in this specific team and city. Just come out and play. Do all parties involved a favor. Come out, play, boost your trade value, and they will try to get rid of you as much as you want to get rid of them. They want to trade. That's the thing that I don't think people consider when they talk about the Ben Simmons situation. The Sixers don't want him either anymore. Elton Brand has made it clear, yo, we're trying to trade him, but we don't like our offers. So if you're Ben, why are you still home? Come back and play. Like I said, boost your value, and then you can come back to the negotiation table with actual proof as to why you are a player worthy of getting a Harden or Lillard or Kyrie Irving or whatever player or Halliburton, Fox, and 3 first-round picks in return for you. But right now, I don't see any team trading a top caliber player for the likes of Ben Simmons.
And while you don't want to waste Joel's season that he's having, like, I don't know. I'm low key on the opposite side of it, because if he wants to, I'm just going to be patient, and if he wants to be a baby, I'm just going to keep taking his money. They've taken double-digit dollars from this, double-digit millions, which I say millions of dollars away from him, I should say, already. So I would just keep doing that, because obviously I'm gonna have somebody that's so desperate for you so badly that, or I'm gonna have the situation that we're about to get into where they don't know, neither one of their sides wants it, and so I'm moved for you, and it's like, if he don't want to play, he don't want to play. I don't understand if he, I should say, if he doesn't want to play for them, he doesn't have to play for them. But I do believe that you at least should be on the court and at least being around the things, because now you just look like a person who, when things aren't going great, you're just gone. So that's the biggest thing for him right now, is showing that he still has some type of character in the game, because right now he has no character in the game. So if he doesn't, if he's not able to show that to his next team, then obviously it will hurt him, because he's too good of a player from what he just does on his own without even getting better. And I think that's probably the biggest problem, is that he hasn't gotten better since he's been a prospect. And that's a bad problem, because if you're not getting better and you're just being the same, well, I drafted you. Well, we draft for upside, especially NBA. Top 15 is upside players. Bottom 15 through the rest of the draft is, oh, this is what you'll get me on the team.
Proven
so your upside was marked. I won't even put it on him, because it's the scouts and the people who project things that, oh, we just assume that he'll be able to get his jumper, and when he gets a jumper, he'll be nasty. Well, somebody should have looked at his work ethic, I should say, because his jumper never got better, and his jumper has never, likely will not get better, and he'll be a player from mid-range on. So at the end of the day, you got to look at these things from an entire aspect and say, oh, well, if Ben Simmons wants to act like this, Ben Simmons is going to act like this, because this is who Ben Simmons is. We just scouted him wrongly. And for the player he's moving into, wanted to move on to him, James Harden is now in the news as a potential suitor for the Ben Simmons trade, because he seems to be very unhappy with Brooklyn. Maybe it's the cold. He is from LA, and he's played in Houston and Oklahoma City his whole career. So maybe he just doesn't like the cold. Who knows what that is? But he's also being tasked as a player who's now sitting while not really being injured. So he's just taking a rest game. and also now wanting a move on his own and possibly Philly being a suitor because that'll be where his former manager and Daryl Morey was, and they can relink with them and be on a team that's contending. And so, just real quick, your opinion on James Harden ultimately destroying teams. This could, especially since he's left, this could be an ultimate thing about destroying teams. Because I wanted to pull this up and get your thoughts about it. Something that I saw. So he got on the first time when at first he got Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was still a good player. So let's not confuse about anything anything with Dwight Howard as a player, because he was still good a player when he went to James Harden in Houston. So Dwight Howard, that couldn't work. But I mean, maybe that's understandable of a thing. Maybe Dwight Howard not working with him is understandable. We know who Dwight Howard is. You get CP3 in Houston. That's the point guard right here, right? We understand, but at the same time, he ran him out of town because he didn't like how much time he was getting as well, or he didn't like the amount of what I forgot the report that it was.
Because Chris Paul wanted to play a fluent offense, and James didn't want that. You know how James Harden plays. You know how Chris Paul wants to play.
One was too set. One was more selfish than the other. So you ran a good player out of the town. You believe that you could work with Russell Westbrook over anybody else. So what you did was you forced Houston to give up all their future just for a player who wasn't even there for more than 1 year. And it cost you, and all it got you was a second round exit in the bubble. So at the end of the day, you're ruining that team's future now. And now you dip on them. You first of all, you stop acting like a player. You stop acting like a person who has any type of skill in basketball, and you dip on them. You go travel up to Brooklyn because that's where the good players at. You got KD up there. You got Kyrie up there. That's where the good players at.
A free ring.
And that's exactly. You thought you went to the free ring, and now that Kyrie Irving is having his things, and we'll get into him in a second. Kyrie Irving is having his mental problems, if that's what you want to call it, or personal problems, I should say.
Personal.
KD is hurt, and you're now having to be the man on your own, and you don't want to do it with a bunch of rookies and bums. You're now running from the grind again. So you got a player, in Dame that we just talked about earlier, a player who embraces the grind and embraces the lone man wolf type of thing, versus James Harden, who is considered a great player, all NBA player, a potential was an all-star player, which is a terrible decision. We'll get into that in a second. But what do you think about him almost honestly ruining teams? Is that really a thing? Does he really ruin teams? He's ruined Houston. He may potentially ruin Brooklyn if they can't finish the deal this year. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to Philly, and what could he do with Philly? Could he ruin them as well?
I think there's another checkpoint on that Houston timeline. When they traded for Russell Westbrook, remember they also traded Clint Capella and I think some shooters, because the whole micro ball, we need Westbrook to have as many driving lanes as possible. So they handicapped their future even more when they had to get rid of Clint Capella and some more players in order to make PJ Tucker the stretch five, and and we're just gonna go completely small. So James Harden got what he wanted again when it was time to play ball that helped Russell Westbrook. So Houston catered to James Harden's every wish, including when it came to trading him. But this is why I am a firm believer that management should take players' requests into consideration, but management should not be listening to players. We see it now in my team. Rob Pelinka had a great deal in place to bring in better enforcement, but he was overruled because he listened to LeBron James and Anthony Davis in their request to bring in Russell Westbrook, and it has done nothing but sabotage our 2021-2022 season, in my opinion. But in terms of Harden, man, I've never been a fan of James Harden, so I'll try to be neutral on this public platform we have, brother. But he's, I don't know, man. I think that Brooklyn also should have never listened to their top player and going to get Harden. I think they had a great squad. I thought they had a great squad. And with the 2019-2020 team with Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, you had pieces who could have helped you severely, not only this year, but last year in the Milwaukee Bucks playoff series, once James Harden went down and Kyrie Irving sprained his ankle, had a high ankle sprain and couldn't play after game 2. You had players like Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, who could have helped you, I think, win that series with how great Kevin Durant was playing. But James Harden, man, he has an overrated skill set. He's one of, just considering just strictly statistics, he has to be considered one of the greatest scorers of all time. I have never called him that because I saw with my eyes how he was playing in Houston and how the team went through him every possession and how he controlled the ball for about 23.7 seconds of the shot clock. So I saw how he plays. I know what type of player he is. I've never been too keen on Harden, but I think to answer your question, I wouldn't call him a team sabotager, but I would say that management sometimes falls in love with players who may seem so great, who are so great that they just want to give them all personnel rights to, we want to consider your opinion in everything we do, when that should not be the case. You are the GM, I am the player. Listen to what I say, but don't follow my every wish, because when things hit the sand and things don't go how we expected, I get to leave. I get to demand a trade and go to whatever destination I please, while you, Daryl Morey or Steven Silas, you have to deal with the mess that I've left. So I think Brooklyn should trade James Harden. It's been rumored that he's going to test out free agency anyway, so I think you have to trade him before he leaves. So I think that's what they should do. I think that the Brooklyn Nets experiment is something that we have to spend real time talking about, because if you consider how everyone just proclaimed them as the preseason champions the moment the trade went through, compared to how we feel about the Nets now, considering all the mess that's going on with Kyrie being a part-time player, James Harden coming in out of shape, the way he played for the first half of this season, and how Kevin Durant really has been carrying both of these guys, an unexperienced coach and a team full of young, unproven players, as far as he possibly can. So the Brooklyn Nets are a separate conversation. James Harden, I wouldn't call him a team sabotager just because I've seen worse, but he definitely has some explaining to do about his last two exits from his last two teams. So I agree with you there.
Quick hitter on it. Is this Kyrie Irving's fault? That's your man? That's your guy? Is this his fault? Is him not being willing enough to do something for the sake of his team and the sake of what he does as a professional, I should say? Is this because I do believe that if he played more home games, they'd have a better record. One,
agreed.
He'd be more involved. Two, and James Harden would be more happier. Three, is this his fault? Or what I will say is I'm going to give him about 15% of the fault, because everybody's own personal agendas are their personal agendas. They got to do what they got to do for themselves. So if he don't want to do it, he don't got to do it. And we've already slandered James enough right now. But is this possibly Kyrie Irving's fault?
I think Kyrie plays a bigger part into the mess of the Brooklyn Nets than he gives himself credit for. I think it's just so tough to talk about Kyrie Irving, because if there weren't vaccine mandates in place, he would be playing. He would be a full-time player. So yes, he should get the vaccine. Kyrie, if you're watching, please get the vaccine. Not only to protect you, but to protect the ones around you, and just to give yourself a better chance of living in the event that you do catch COVID-19. That's why you should get the vaccine. But is this all his fault? I mean, he definitely, like you said, I'll give him a slice of the blame pie, but I don't know, man. James Harden showed up to Brooklyn out of shape last year, and then he played terrible to start this season. So I don't see how Kyrie Irving could fix any of those situations. I do think that Kyrie owes Kevin Durant an explanation. Kevin Durant, in my opinion, I know he has to be looking at his guys like, I left the Warriors for you guys.
It's 100% true. He left the Warriors for this.
And it's not funny, because we all know how much Kevin Durant loves the game. I'm sure he is livid at what's going on currently with the Brooklyn Nets. But I know he has to be looking at Kyrie like, bro, I left Steph Curry to play with you. I left who Khalil will call one of the greatest, probably the greatest point guard of all time for you. I left a team that had all that, everything was just so cohesive. I left a great situation with a coach, a front office who, they took public jabs at me, but they valued me privately and they valued me publicly. I left a squad who literally went to the finals in 2019 without me. I left this situation for you. I saw a joke on Twitter and it said Kevin Durant is an example of a guy who leaves a Fortune 500 company job to make a startup with his friends. So, and that made me laugh because that's really a true comparison. He left a great situation, a well-oiled machine, a team that could run itself without him being present, for a team who literally is falling in shambles right before his eyes. And I don't think there's anything he can do about it except either leave or just try to stay and try to just wait it out and try to see what they get back for Harden. Might gotta wait until either A, New York State eases up on vaccine mandates, or B, we find a trade suitor for Kyrie Irving. Because right now, I definitely think Kevin Durant is both upset and disappointed in his two friends, James Harden and Kyrie Irving, for how all of this has came about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel badly for you, KD. You're too good of a player to be done with this nonsense. That's going to put a wrap on episode 2 of Hot Box Talk Podcast. Next episode, we'll be getting into our All-Star special as well as our NFL Honor special. We'll be going over the full list, the roster, deserving, undeserving, who got snubbed. We've got a lot of topics and takes on that, especially in the Eastern Conference. So, and who will be replacing the guys who won't be playing the games, as well as NFL Honor Special. We're going to be looking at MVP of the league, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, Defensive Rookie, Coach of the Year, Best Team Surprise. I'll say biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, and of course, a Super Bowl preview on Bengals, Rams, biggest game of the year, who will come out on top. Any spreads, any likes, any picks you got for anybody that's watching this episode today, bro?
Nah, not really. It's Saturday. I know we probably shouldn't date ourselves, but it is Saturday night. The season finale of Power Book 2 Ghost comes on tonight. So real quick, I saw Braden's post. His real name is Giovanni. I saw his post on Instagram kind of insinuate that there was supposed to be a tragedy that happens tonight. And I swear to God, if somebody kills my boy Braden Weston, I will be up in arms, man. I will be up in arms if somebody kills my boy, and it better not be. And I don't think it would be Tariq, because but then again, Tariq is a killer. He's shown that he will kill people that he cares about. But I still don't think it'll be Tariq. But if Kane Tejada is the one to pull the trigger of the gun, of the bullet that goes into Braden Weston, man, oh man.
I think we'll look to in the next one. We'll have a follow up on that. Maybe even a quick thoughts on the Tommy's news series that we'll have coming out as well. It comes out tonight as on the date of our recording. So I think we'll have a couple thoughts on that Power. I know I will for sure. And we're gonna see how it's looking. But yeah, we're gonna sign out for y'all. Anything you want to say to people, bro, before you head out?
Man, just stay safe, man. Stay safe, stay COVID free, stay healthy. Go Lakers. Hopefully we can make a move before the trade deadline. Hopefully, and I meant to talk about this in the Blazers segment, but hopefully Dame requests a trade and we can do Damian Lillard for Russell Westbrook. Maybe straight up. Maybe that's what I dream about off camera. That's what I dream about before I go to sleep. Maybe we can make that happen. But Oh my God, please, let's Rob Pelinka, if you're watching. Westbrook, it's time for him to go. It's time for him to go.
All right, man. Yeah, we're going to tap in with y'all. So peace out. We're going to catch y'all later, man.
Peace.